Hello and welcome to this week's review of Mashle Magic and Muscle, Chapter 63 Mash Bernadette and the Tall Tower. A quick recap of last week's chapter: Innocent Zero's presumed leader, Father Froze Time, revealed he is apparently Mash's biological parent. Wahlberg was a badass old man, and then he and Father both activated their third lines to awaken the power of gods dwelling inside their wands. That was a quick recap. Now let us move on to this week's chapter, and we pick up right where the previous chapter left off, with Gather and Wahlberg staring each other down with swirling winds and black electricity flying off them as they stand only meters apart, and we can get a better look at Father's wand. It resembles a long staff with a large clock face at the top surrounded by spikes, fitting for the god of time, I suppose. However, before the fight can commence, black, almost tower-like creatures begin to emerge out of the arena floor. Bodies resembling starving humans with their ribs on full display, a single large central eye on their foreheads and large, sharp teeth. Father speaks on how he has no need for anyone but Mash, so he shall end the rest of them here. Interestingly, he did not appear to cast a spell, or make any sort of movement at all, so I am uncertain if this is an ability of Father or a spell cast by one of the other members of Innocent Zero. If it is Father, then he is quite versatile. As the monsters begin to move towards their targets, Wahlberg sends out a powerful shockwave which has the result of snapping Dot, Caldo, Margaret, Lance and Mash out of the time freeze state, and somehow Margaret is still in the metamorphosis state. I wonder if that is a permanent spell. Anyway, Wahlberg tells them he will explain everything later as everyone prepares for battle, before giving them the order to protect the students just as the monsters begin their rapid charge forwards. I wonder how effective Margaret will be with a broken wand. Can you still do magic with a broken wand? If so, is it weaker? Something to think about, depending upon how the Sound Mage fares in this battle. Lance questions what the monsters are, and Dot gives him probably the best answer you could given the circumstances, that he does not know, but they are bad, and the entire situation is bad. While those two are being closed in by dozens of those monsters, Caldo is concerned with assisting Wahlberg, and with that idea planted squarely in his head, he impales the first monster on his enflamed sword, before cleaving right through them, making a note of the fact that they are actually tough, with each of them having strength equal to a double-liner. I am not certain how he can determine that from the fact so far. They have only been using physical attacks, but maybe there is something he sees that we as an audience don't see. But either way, they do not seem capable of doing much to Caldo at current. Dot and Lance on the other hand are having a bit of trouble, with Dot aggressively questioning just how many of these monsters are there and Lance telling him to move his wand instead of his lips. But hang on a second there, that is actually a valid point. How many of these monsters can Innocent Zero summon at once? Depending upon the numbers, this could get ridiculous, with them fighting an unwinnable war of attrition against a tireless army. Thankfully, these monsters do not seem particularly sturdy, as Lance and Dot are able to stand alongside one another, either crushing or exploding them. It is nice to see that even in such a stressful, high-stakes situation they are not completely losing their cool, although I do wonder what it will take to trigger Iroquois and for Dot to start exploding everything. And if that were to happen, would Innocent Zero take interest in his particular unique circumstance? With Father wanting to be a perfect human, I don't see why not. Speaking of Father, he is still talking with Wahlberg, commenting on how the old man left his monsters in the hands of so few. To which Wahlberg tells him to worry about himself first before swiping his wand at the air, and suddenly both of them appear to be teleported away into the sky or some other cloudy expanse. I am expecting the Nameless King to swoop in any moment on his Storm Drake given the scene. Wahlberg says that they will not be interrupted here, so it seems the old-timer is going to take on Father by himself, and most likely either die or get serious injured, because that is what happens when badass old mentor-type figures pull this stuff. And back on the ground, Dot can't help but comment on how they aren't making a dent in the large number of them, which just goes to show how many there are and reaffirmed to me that this can't be the work of Father's own magic, or else that means, presumable, he would be using his magic to sustain such a spell, alongside time stop and whatever he is going to pull out against Wahlberg. That kind of power is utterly absurd and really makes me question if there is any hope Mash or anyone outside of Wahlberg could ever hope to match up to him. But anyway, as Lance is telling Dot that support will come, so they just have to hold on, he interrupts himself as he notices something from the corner of his eyes. The formation of a giant spiked ball large enough to crush the entire Colosseum is forming, with a large, spiked tower having grown out of the top of the Colosseum. Dot, understandable, begins to panic, yelling about what that thing is and what will happen if it lands on them. I will assume they would die, but who knows. But with his incredible eyesight, Dot is capable of spotting Selwar standing on top of the tower with his arms raised into the air, but as he announces that, he also notices a new threat approach, a white variation of the regular black monsters, this one being far more muscular, and it seems to be a rarer variety of the monster, probably significantly stronger, I'd assume, given how few of them there are, with only 3 visible currently in the hordes. Dot, proving that he really seems to have his head on right when it comes to battle, takes note of the fact that while they have the rest of them busy, and Margaret agrees, they do have them all busy except for Mash, so they must be trying to lure him into a trap. Believing that they must have a way of stopping him which they have absolute confidence in, and Dot questions on how Margaret comes to that conclusion, to which Margaret responds with women's intuition, so Margaret is actually a woman this whole time. Guess I was fooled, just like Dot, who comments on how he was wondering about that. That is when Dot gives Mash the order to go take out Selwar on top of the tower and leave the mobs to them. Not like Mash was really doing anything anyway, just standing around while the monsters seemed utterly uninterested in attacking him. I do wonder why he was not doing anything until now. Did he realize they had a way to stop him, or was he just uncertain of to proceed with an enemy which did not appear interested in harming him specifically? Either way, with Dot's words, he sets off on a run straight towards Selwar, who notices his approach with a smile before he kicks off the ground and lands at the top of the stadium wall and at the base of the gigantic tower. The tower is tall, and climbing it would just make him a target, or so Dot assumes, but by this point we all know that Mash is not going to do something as mundane as climb the tower. Instead he draws back his leg and kicks it square in the side, resulting in us getting a wicked image of Mash with his eyes whited out as his leg collides with the mighty stone tower. Very epic. The result was an entire section of the tower being smashed out from beneath it, causing it to shrink before Mash kicks out another section and another over and over again. Dot's sight is relief. Also he is sweating as he realizes Mash is playing Daruma Drop with the tower. At this point it is a bit silly for anyone to be surprised by Mash's insane stunts. Dot really should just assume Mash can do just about anything. And as Mash finally lowers the tower enough so that Selwar and him are almost at eye level, the criminal mage remembers his previous encounter with Mash and even comments on it, telling Mash that destroying his tower is meaningless, he will have to defeat him. But that goes interrupted as Mash starts blabbering as his terrible skill at lying comes up yet again. Saying how it has been a while, and that they sat next to each other at the opening ceremony, right? Clearing having no memory of who Selwar is or what he is, and this only serves to leave the man utterly stunned, his eyes wide and his expression frozen as the chapter comes to an end. Seems like Mash is set up to fight Selwar next chapter. That being said, I doubt that the man would or even could go all out against Mash if there is even the slightest risk of doing serious harm to him, given how Father seems to be the one in command, and I have a feeling that he will not be too pleased if Mash is killed. That said, I do not think that Selwar will be taken out easily, especially given how he took a direct strike from Mash previously, so we know he is quite durable. Especially with that epidermis he has, whatever that means. I wonder what he is hiding beneath it. Also, if Mash defeats him, will the giant ball disappear, or will it still fall on them? As for Wahlberg and Father, I have some doubt that we will get to see their fight in its full glory. I'm assuming they will return near the end of the fight, either with Wahlberg being dead and Father too injured to continue, forcing them to retreat as reinforcements arrive, or that they will come back with both exhausted and Innocent Zero still being forced to retreat regardless. I just don't see any way in which they can be allowed to succeed here without it sending us off down the path of a rescue mission for MASH. Either way, thank you for watching the video to this point. If you enjoyed, feel free to like, and if you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe.